Look, is that okay? Sorry. No. Well, hello there. Hey y'all, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. I haven't posted a video in a while, shocker, but I wanted to bring you guys my wrap up for March, and I'm pretty impressed with myself. I read a total of 7 books. Wait, hold on, no. 8 books. It's not a contest, you know, I'm not trying to read the most books in a month, but I'm really proud of myself considering the fact that I paced myself and I really enjoyed reading this month. Let's get on with the wrap up. Now, of course, most of the books that I've read were from my library, so I don't have the physical copy with me, but I will try and put a picture of the book either here or here, or maybe here, or maybe here. I don't know yet. Okay, it's so exciting. The first book that I completed for the month of March was A Madness So Discrete by Mindy McGinnis. I actually started this last year. It is pretty heavy as far as with trigger warnings. It's got mentions of rape and molestation, and it's a little tough even for, I think this is a YA book. Those are sensitive topics for me. So I ended up taking a really long break in between, and then I was finally in a place to finish it. But this book is about Grace May, who, I think this is in a time where, I'm not sure what the time frame, I want to say that it was still in the era of horse-drawn carriages. I almost said horse-drawn cabbages. They're still in the era of where they're using horse-drawn carriages, and the science of psychology and the science of the mind is fairly new to, let me just read this. Grace May knows madness. She keeps it locked away along with her voice, trapped deep inside a brilliant mind that cannot forget horrific family secrets. Those secrets, along with the bulge in her belly, land her in a Boston insane asylum. When her voice returns in a burst of violence, Grace is banished to the dark cellars where her mind is discovered by a visiting doctor who dabbles in the study of criminal psychology. So I'm going to stop there, but that's basically the gist of the book. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars, maybe just because it's a YA and I'm used to reading more adult true crime. 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is actually a genre that I don't typically dive into, and that is nonfiction. But this book is Pretty Butches, and it's a group of essays written by women empowering women by taking back the names that are used as slurs or derogatory against us and turning it into something else and turning it into our strength. One of the stories in there is about how this woman is told she's too much. You know, she's too pretty, she's too this, she's too loud, she's too talkative. And it just kind of shows you how she turns it around and uses it to her advantage and uses it as her strength. And it's a very empowering nonfiction novel regardless. Like I said, I don't really deep dive into this kind of stuff, but I feel like this is a really good book to kind of like dip my toes into. It's by, like I said, different or multiple authors, but it was edited by Lizzie Skurnick. Oh, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, by the way, in case you're wondering. The next one that I read it's been a long time coming. I've been trying to get this read and off my TBR for the longest time, and that is The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. I have read all the Throne of Glass books except for Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash, and then of course The Assassin's Blade, which I could kick it off the list. But I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Then probably my most favorite book at the moment is My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. Wait, just hold on a second, because when a book gets you this flustered, you know it's good. My Heart is a Chainsaw is basically a book about Jade, who is about, I believe, like 17, and she is your average teenager, except she's obsessed with slasher movies. And not just slasher movies, but she has a very deep respect and admiration for all of the horror genre, which I can kind of relate to. I mean, I have to pace myself, but I really enjoy horror movies and the horror genre in general, just because it gives you that giddy feeling. Anyways, I probably go off on a whole tangent. Jade sees these warning signs and she thinks that there is going to be a slasher in the making in her town when these wealthy families come in to build across the lake, and everything starts going wrong. People end up dead. Oh, I just can't. My head's gonna explode. But definitely check it out. Even if you're not a horror buff, go check it out. If you have any respect for the horror genre, or you've read maybe a couple of horror books, you really should go read this. I've heard a lot of people call it a love letter to slasher movies, and I can't describe it any better than that. It is, I like it. No, I love it. 5 out of 5 stars. If you didn't guess, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And then, kind of riding onto that mystery slash thriller slash horror genre, I read The 10th Girl by Sara. Now, this is not what I expected it to be. This book is about our protagonist who is going to work at this school as a teacher, and it's kind of like your dark academia where, like, this is a finishing school and it's on the South American continent, like at the very, very end of the South American continent, along in that area. And my thinking was that this was going to be a book about that dark academia feel, and it was going to be about this teacher navigating this world and running from her past, yada yada yada, but it turned out to be completely something different. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. You know, when you sit there and you have certain expectations for a book because of the way the synopsis goes or flows. Whenever I read the synopsis, I had one specific thing in mind, and I got the feeling that it was going to be this certain type of book, and then it turned out not to be a type of book that I thought it was at all. And I just didn't like that. If I would have gone into this book knowing nothing at all what it was about, I think I would have really liked it. But because I went into it thinking it was going to be this type of book, I feel like I kind of set myself up for failure almost. Moving on, once again, just to reiterate, I give that a 2 out of 5 stars. Did not enjoy. Another book that I completed in March was the 5th season by Jemisin. I actually heard quite a bit about this on Twitter. If you haven't heard about this book, it is a fantasy. It's kind of like it's a dystopian fantasy. 3 terrible things happen in a single day. Isun, masquerading as an ordinary school teacher in a quiet small town, comes home to find that her husband has brutally murdered their son and kidnapped their daughter. Mighty Sanzi, the empire whose innovations have been civilization's bedrock for thousands of years, collapses as its greatest city is destroyed by a madman's vengeance. And worst of all, across the heartland of the world's sole continent, a great red rift has been torn which spews ash enough to darken the sky for years, or centuries. But this is the stillness, a land long familiar with struggle with origins. Those who wield the power of the earth as a weapon are feared for more than the long cold night. Isun has remembered herself and she will have her daughter back. She does not care if the world falls apart around her. Isun will break it herself if she must to save her daughter. This is a really great book, and you kind of go back and forth between different POVs, but it all just makes sense in the end. You just kind of start going with the flow. You have these characters that you really fall in love with, especially Isun, who has been through a really traumatic past, and this was just a beautiful book. It wrapped up so beautifully. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I mean, I couldn't give it anything less. The final book that I actually completed last night, was The Artificial Condition by Martha Wells. This is the second book in the Murderbot series. I first read Martha Wells back last year when I was trying to branch out into different genres. I believe this was actually one of my first science fiction novels that I'd read as an adult. I don't want to give too much away, but you basically have this sec unit or security unit. It hacks its governor module, which makes it to where it can make its own choice instead of being governed by its boss or its company, etc. I really enjoyed this just because it's not one of those novels that you have to read about 400 pages to get an idea of the world, but you know, it's very short. This one was about 158 pages, and a bunch of the books are about that long. So if you're looking for something to kind of experiment genre-wise, I definitely would suggest the Murderbot series. Alright, that is all for today. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Come here. If you enjoyed this content, please give me a like and consider subscribing, and I see you guys next time. See you later, bye!